Give me some of your time, and I'll erase your weakness. Not because I'll give you motivation, not because I'll fill your ears with empty inspiration, but because you'll see what you've been calling weakness for what it really is: an illusion, a narrative, a system of lies you've told yourself so often. You've mistaken them for your personality. And if you're willing to listen closely, if you're willing to sit through the discomfort and let Nietzsche speak to the parts of you that you've kept hidden, then something in you will shatter. And what replaces it will not be a better version of you. It will be the version that was always there, buried beneath the weakness, waiting for the moment you stopped protecting it. Let's be clear. Nietzsche didn't believe in comforting the weak. He didn't write for the fragile, or the sensitive, or the endlessly anxious. He wrote for the ones who were ready to confront the violence of life with eyes wide open. The ones who were tired of lying to themselves. The ones who realized that nothing is coming to save them. And finally decided to stop waiting. And if you've reached that point, if you've had enough of the fear, the passivity, the apologies, the emotional inflation that has softened you into invisibility, then this is your beginning, not your transformation, your return. Because strength was never outside you. It was simply buried under layers of self-doubt, societal training, and the addiction to comfort. So let's begin with a question. What does it mean to be weak? Most people think weakness is crying too much, or being physically small, or lacking discipline. But Nietzsche would tell you otherwise. Weakness isn't emotional expression. Weakness is emotional submission. Weakness is needing permission. Weakness is outsourcing your validation to people who don't even understand themselves. Weakness is choosing peace over truth. Weakness is lying about what you want just to avoid judgment. Weakness is calling your laziness self-care, and your fear humility, and your insecurity empathy. Weakness is not the absence of strength. It is the presence of self-betrayal. And here's the brutal truth. The modern world is built to make you weak. Your education trained you to obey. Your culture trained you to conform. Your media feeds you helplessness disguised as awareness. And even the people who say they love you, many of them benefit from your softness, your silence, your hesitation. So they encourage it. They praise your selflessness. They reward your passivity. They applaud your restraint. Not because it's good for you, but because it keeps you small, predictable, dependent, and worst of all, forgettable. Nietzsche saw this. He saw the way society molds you into a domesticated version of yourself. And he said, the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. He didn't mean struggle physically. He meant struggle psychologically. The struggle to stay true to your instincts when the world demands you neuter them. The struggle to remain dangerous, not violent, not chaotic, but dangerous. In a world that wants you polite, polished, and obedient. And so, the first step in erasing your weakness is to understand that you've been trained to mistake weakness for goodness. To believe that saying no is rude, that asserting your boundaries is selfish, that choosing yourself is narcissism. But Nietzsche flips that completely. He says that real strength, the kind that makes you magnetic, respected, remembered, comes from the rejection of mass thinking. the rejection of safety, the rejection of needing to be liked. So let me ask you, who are you without the need to be liked? Not hypothetically. Actually. Strip away your filters. Stop editing yourself. If no one needed you to be nice, agreeable, humble, passive, who would you be? What would you say? What would you demand? What would you walk away from? Most people can't answer that because they've built their entire identity on reactions, on feedback. They don't have a self. They have a mask, a persona sculpted to fit in, to survive. And Nietzsche hated that. He saw it as the death of the human spirit. Because the moment you stop being dangerous, the moment you start filtering your truth to fit a system, you've already surrendered your power. But you feel that already, don't you? That quiet resentment, that simmering frustration, that fatigue that doesn't go away with sleep. That's not burnout. That's the cost of weakness. The cost of living in a way that silences your deeper instincts just to keep the surface smooth. So here's what Nietzsche would tell you now. You were not born to be soft. You were not born to be tolerant of everything. You were not born to fold every time someone raises their eyebrow. You were born to embody something sharper, something primal, not chaotic, but unshakable, not reckless, but untouchable. And the reason you feel weak is because you've denied that part of you for so long, you've started to believe it never existed. But it did. It does. And we're going to dig it out, right now. Let's talk about your habits, because weakness lives in routine, in subtle, daily rituals that slowly rot your willpower while convincing you you're doing fine. Nietzsche said, "He who cannot obey himself will be commanded." You wake up and you check your phone. Already, you've lost. Not because phones are bad, but because you didn't claim the day. You surrendered it. You scroll, you compare, you envy. And then you rationalize. You say it's harmless. But every time you react before you create, you weaken the muscle of sovereignty. You become emotionally flabby. You lose edge. You lose command. So let's change that. Start owning your mornings. Before you check a screen, check your posture, check your breath. Remind yourself that you are not a consumer first. You are a creator, a builder, a strategist. And your energy is not available to algorithms the second you open your eyes. Next, speech. Weakness shows up in your words, in how you water yourself down to make people comfortable, in how you speak softly so they won't feel threatened, in how you say, "I don't know," when you do, and how you apologize for things that don't require an apology. You're leaking power, and they can feel it. That's why they don't listen to you. That's why they talk over you. That's why they underestimate you. Nietzsche didn't whisper. He wrote with fire, and he expected you to do the same. Not to be loud, but to be clear. Clarity is force. Clarity makes people pause. It makes them lean in. And if your presence doesn't do that yet, then you have work to do. Not because you're broken, but because you've been hiding. Stop hiding. Own your opinions. Say them clean. Don't explain them. Let the silence after you speak carry weight. Most people are afraid of silence. You won't be, because silence means tension. And tension is how respect is earned. Now let's talk about emotion. You think strength means feeling nothing. That's wrong. That's dysfunction. Nietzsche didn't teach emotional numbness. He taught emotional command. That means you can feel everything and still choose your action. You don't react, you respond. When someone disrespects you, you don't explode. You don't chase. You don't defend. You just stare. You wait. And when you move, it's calculated. It's exact. It's surgical. That is strength. Weakness is emotion without awareness. Strength is emotion under control. So stop saying, "I'm just an emotional person." That's a lie. You're just undisciplined. And discipline isn't cold. It's clean. It's precise. It's the difference between crying in a breakdown and crying with purpose. The first makes you a victim. The second makes you human. And speaking of victims, Nietzsche hated them. He believed victimhood was the modern form of slavery. Not physical slavery, psychological slavery. The need to blame, to wait for rescue, to justify stagnation with trauma. He didn't deny pain. He denied passivity. So here's what you do. You stop telling your story like a tragedy. You stop reciting your traumas as identity. You stop weaponizing your pain to get sympathy. You start transmuting it into steel. Because here's the truth. No one cares what happened to you. Not really. They care what you become despite it. And if you can become something impenetrable, something refined, something quiet but unshakable, then your past becomes a forge, and your scars become your armor. Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." But here's the secret. Your why is not found. It is chosen. You don't wait for it. You decide it. You carve it into your days. And the moment you do, weakness begins to dissolve. Because when you know your direction, distractions die. Drama fades. Doubt becomes noise. And weakness, it loses its grip. So decide. Decide right now. Who do you serve? What do you build? What do you protect? What will you not tolerate one more day of? Make it real. Make it written. And make it non-negotiable. Because if you don't choose a why, the world will assign you one. And it will be weak. It will be soft. It will keep you obedient, broke, and forgettable. But that's not your fate. Not anymore. Because by the time this is done, you will no longer be the same. And now, we will go even deeper. We will confront your subconscious. We will dismantle the habits that enslave you. And we will begin the final process of reintroducing you to yourself, the version of you that never needed to be fixed, only unleashed. You made it this far. That means one thing. You're not like the others. Because most people can't sit still when someone touches their weakness. Most people flinch. They click away. They chase another dopamine hit. They pretend they already knew this. But you're still here. And that means something in you is starting to wake up. Something old. Something raw. Something buried. Nietzsche didn't just write about power. He wrote about what makes men afraid of it. He knew that weakness isn't just physical or mental. It's existential. It's rooted in the stories you've accepted, the definitions you've inherited, the quiet agreements you made with fear before you even knew what fear was. And one of the deepest roots of weakness, the fear of being alone. Let's talk about that. You've spent your whole life trying to belong. School trained you to raise your hand for permission. Friends trained you to stay inside the tribe. Family trained you to suppress what's inconvenient. Relationships trained you to be agreeable, non-threatening, soft-edged. And slowly, you became addicted to acceptance. Not love, acceptance. The kind of dead, passive inclusion that requires you to shrink, silence, and shapeshift just to be tolerated. But Nietzsche would look you in the eye and say, you must be willing to stand alone, utterly, completely, if you are ever to know yourself. Because the truth is, belonging has a price, and most people pay with their authenticity, with their strength, with their individuality. But not you. Not anymore. You're going to unlearn the addiction to belonging. You're going to become someone who doesn't beg for a seat at the table. You're going to build your own table. And if no one joins you, good. More room, more space, more clarity. That's the first upgrade. Solitude over submission. Now let's go deeper. Why do you procrastinate? Why do you sabotage yourself? Why do you delay the things you know will make you better? Most people think it's laziness. It's not. It's a hidden loyalty. A psychological contract you made long ago to stay small, so others wouldn't feel uncomfortable. Somewhere in your past, you learned that shining too brightly made people pull away. You learned that power came with distance, that honesty came with punishment, that ambition came with loneliness. So you adapted. You learned how to dim, how to delay, how to talk yourself out of your own momentum just to keep things safe. That's not laziness. That's survival. But it's time to break the contract, because you're not here to be tolerated. You're here to be felt. And that requires intensity. It requires decisiveness. It requires the kind of clarity that makes average people uncomfortable. Nietzsche said, "The snake which cannot cast its skin must die." That's what weakness really is. The refusal to evolve because you fear who you might lose if you do. But now you're going to shed the skin. Not gently, not slowly. You're going to rip it off. The people pleaser, the second guesser, the overthinker, the emotional translator. Gone. Let's get tactical. Start with your language. Every time you say, "I don't know," when you do, you reinforce uncertainty. Every time you say maybe when you mean no, you fracture your own integrity. Every time you say sorry for existing, for interrupting, for needing anything, you cut away at your own spine. Speak clearly. Don't soften. Don't qualify. Don't filter. People will say you're rude. Let them. That's just a reflex from those who got used to you making yourself small. And you're done with that. Next, your body. Weakness hides in posture, in how you sit, in how you move, in how you breathe. Most people live like prey, shoulders slumped, eyes down, breaths shallow. You can tell someone's story by their frame. But now you change yours. Stand like someone who knows they're watched. Walk like someone who expects to be followed. Sit like someone who isn't asking for permission. Every room you walk into, you dominate. Not by force, but by presence. Presence comes from certainty, and certainty comes from alignment. So ask yourself, what do I believe in so deeply that I would walk away from anything that doesn't honor it? Write it down, carry it, live by it. Let it bleed into everything you do. Now let's kill something else. Victimhood. Nietzsche despised the modern tendency to glorify suffering. He saw it as a trap. When you make your pain your personality, you become addicted to weakness. You become loyal to your struggle. You find identity in it. But here's the truth. No one cares what you survived. They care what you became because of it. And if all you became was bitter, anxious, fragile, then you let your story win. So rewrite it. Don't say, I'm a trauma survivor. Say, I'm a builder of fire. Don't say, I was abused. Say, I became untouchable. Don't say, I have anxiety. Say, I own stillness. Words are spells. Speak power or stay silent. Now let's close. Because you already knew everything I said. Somewhere inside you, the real you, the grounded, clear, calm, dominant version, was listening to every word and nodding. Remembering what strength feels like, what clarity feels like, what it feels like to move without apology, to protect your energy like a king guards his land, to walk away from conversations that shrink you, to say no with your chest, to say yes only to the things that sharpen you, to sit in silence and feel no need to fill it. That's not motivation. That's home. You're back. But here's the catch. You can't unknow this. You can't go back to being the version of you who made excuses, who delayed, who broke promises to himself. Because now, you know better. And when you know better, you either evolve or you lie. So choose. Become the man Nietzsche would respect. Not the loudest, not the richest, not the most praised, the most real, the one who looks in the mirror and sees no hesitation, only presence. This is your standard now. Guard it like your life depends on it, because it does.